Well, hello and welcome to I Love Gay today. And we're having some fun. We're in San Francisco today with a colleague and a friend. It's Curtis Sparrer from Bospar. How are you?
I am pretending and projecting energy whether or not I feel dead inside.
Oh, well, you're doing it very, very well.
Thank you. Thank you. I will, try to keep up appearances throughout the remainder of this podcast.
I
Is it
love
a
it.
blogcast or is it a video?
I know. I don't even know what the word is. Is it a vlog? It's just gonna be
It's
10 to
fluid.
it's gonna be 10 to 15 minutes of us having a great time together.
Well, then, if it's legal, I'm for it.
Yep. No, what I think is great and funny is I can't believe our paths haven't crossed until now. You know, you and I, when we started talking, we come from the old days of the LGBT internet. You were with PlanetOut, I was with Gay Wired, and then there was gay.com somewhere in the middle of all that. And I love the fact you're the first person I've interviewed and seen in a long time that comes from those days.
I mean, the old folks' stories are incredible. I had a pen name, Christopher Curtis. And when I would report for Sirius radio, I was Bill Peterson. And so, yeah, I've done it. And I can say that this was a place where I felt my voice actually sounded butch.
I don't think you had to try very hard for that.
Stop.
Uh, but no, and so you from your Planet Out days, and it's been quite a journey. But now you're a co-founder of Bospar. It's a PR and marketing firm based in San Francisco. But tell us, how did all that come about?
Well, I think that if I was to go way back when, I was in TV news, I was also moonlighting for the gay press.
Yeah.
And at a certain point in time, I had to make a decision about whether I stayed in media as a journalist or whether I stayed in media as a PR person.
Yeah.
And that choice would mean leaving San Francisco. And so I gave myself one full day to think that I continued my media career in a different city or if I was unemployed. Really liked being unemployed in San Francisco. I liked it so much that I was employed for about a week.
Yeah.
I got a job at a PR agency
Okay.
and I started working my way up the ranks. Eventually, there came a point where I had to decide whether or not to stay within the agency model or start my own agency.
Yeah.
And it seemed so much better to start my own agency. And I did it with a person who started my career in PR.
Okay.
And so we decided to start Bospar in 2015. And one of the things that we did is we looked at how previous PR agencies got into trouble.
Yeah.
And the biggest issue was paying rent. And I heard all about the dot-com bust, how you either could pay for your people or your property, but you couldn't pay for both. And I thought, what if we did away with that? What if we broke that cycle?
Yeah.
And that's when we decided to be a work from home agency way back when in 2015. And it started off pretty good. We had a few clients, and then we got into some points where someone would say, well, gosh, the idea about a virtual agency seems weird to me.
Yeah.
I want people to be able to swap ideas at the water cooler.
Yeah.
And such
Yeah.
quaint concepts to me seem pretty ridiculous. And so, in order to show that our virtual work from home model worked, we started winning awards. Ta
Yeah.
da!
Yeah.
And because we started winning awards, we were able to prove, hey, working from home works. You can be
Yeah.
creative, you can be productive. In fact, you are probably more productive because you're not having to go and commute.
Yeah.
And we started growing, growing, growing. And then COVID hit, and then we really started growing. And then we had a horrible I told you so moment because everyone was working from home, everyone's trying to figure it out. And now we're in this weird situation where there's a tug of war. There are people with vested interest trying to bring people back to the office. And then there are other people there who are saying, I really like working from home. It really adds value to me. And I think that I'm a lot more productive. And so I'm definitely in the work from home camp. I think offices are kind of a powdered wig of a bygone era, but I'm here to listen to both sides anyway.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. Before I sold gaywire.com, we had a team of 10, and I literally would work from home at least until about 10 or 11 in the morning. It was the only way for me to get real work done. And then I would go to the office, and then by the moment I walk in the office, you get questions and everybody, and then everything just hits you and you get no work done, and it becomes more about kind of leading the team. And I just learned that productivity working from home. I've been working from home ever since. And the pandemic really did kind of like change that conversation and change the dynamic. And thank goodness, because now it's completely normal not to have an office nowadays.
Yeah, it is. And I think that as people look at expenses as well as the ROI of physical offices, I think we're still going to lean into a work from home model.
Yeah.
I think that the other thing that's kind of interesting is, you and I both been talking about our paths as journalism in the LGBT media. And one of the things I discovered through my time in NLGGA is that is actually a huge value add, that you and I have networks that extend to every major media outlet in the country, if not the world. I mean, there are people at Fox News I can contact. There are people at CNBC and Bloomberg. And
Yeah.
I don't think people in, professional media communicators have really taken into account how important that is to have a network that's so close and bonded.
Yeah. And now that network is we're all connected through whether it's LinkedIn and other social media. And so, yeah, the whole dynamic has changed and I like it.
So I think the big thing for people to think about is, where do we go now with the media universe? And I think AI is becoming this big thing that people are looking at and thinking, ooh, is this going to help us, hurt us? How is it going to work? We actually had a panel at Microsoft's office in the Bay Area where we talked to journalists from outlets like Wired, ZDNet, AFP, Bloomberg, about what AI would do to the media universe and how it would impact them. And the big question I asked them is, do they think AI would take their jobs? And the overwhelming answer was no.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like I feel like we're doing an episode of Hard Fork right now. I love it. But the big thing is, and one of the how you kind of really came on my radar. Actually, you've been on my radar off and on through various people that we know, in common, that just keep talking about the work you're doing. But every time somebody mentions Cannes, first the first thought is always a film festival, but something different has been going on there for a few years. And before we even launch into what you did, tell us what's been happening in Cannes over these last few years in the world of advertising.
Well, the Cannes Lion Creative Festival is there right after the big film festival. And this is an opportunity to talk about what creative people are doing in the advertising marketing space. And you will get best campaigns, you will get all sorts of marketing technology reveals, you'll have all sorts of celebrities like the entire cast of Saturday Night Live making the case for NBC, because again, this is for advertisers. This is to get their buy-in on the issues of the day that's important. And a part of that mix are PR people. Yeah. And because PR people are a part of that mix, we've been drawn into it. And so we actually competed in the Cannes Festival last year. In fact, ta-da! This is our finalist poster right here. Okay. And so it's important to go. It's important to see people. It's important also to see what's new, what is the sort of burgeoning way you could get someone's attention and get people to activate on it. And so one of the things I noticed when we got there the year last was that there was no LGBTQIA nightlife. And it was kind of astonishing. And so I would go out with my friends and we'd all want to drop the proverbial hairpin. And it was just kind of a frat party everywhere and nowhere to really just chill out. Yeah. And so I thought, well, maybe we should have a LGBTQIA nightlife venue for us. Yeah. And around this time that I was kicking this idea around, advertisers and brands were targeted by the religious right, and they were pressuring them to pull back on their LGBTQIA campaigns. Yeah. And one brand that particularly got hit hard was Target. Yeah. And so we thought we should really do something to show our support for brands that stand up and stand with the LGBTQIA community. So we created this whole activation called Club Courage, saying that after all, if you're going to stand with us, you need to be courageous. Yeah. And we asked people worldwide, what were the brands that they most respected? who had been steadfast in their support of our community. And then, of course, we had a kickoff at what else? A nightclub dedicated to the LGBTQIA community. And we recruited one of the drag performers who was local to the con scene, because it was important to me that we didn't come off as carpetbaggers. We came and we collaborated with the artists and the local people there who make up their community. And they told us, you know what? There hasn't been a gay scene here in quite some time. It used to rival Nice. Now it's been decimated. And so we wanted to do whatever we could to jumpstart that community. And I was really proud of what we were able to do there. I think that it was important to get stories out there about how representation matters. When you go to con itself, what you're going to see is all these nostalgic movie posters, but there are no gay people there. There are no lesbians. There's no one queer of any stripe of the rainbow flag that stands. And so we thought that was, symptomatic of the problem there. Con is like holding itself as this paragon of, movie excellence and entertainment and creativity, and yet not one gay person there. And that's where we put our foot down. Yeah. And so I think we've laid a lot of exciting groundwork. I think that there is a ton of work to be done. I was delighted that the people from GLAAD showed up at our event. I was delighted that we had other agency people show up. Yeah. And I think what we need to do is do more campaigning to get the people at the Cannes Lion Festival integrated into our efforts, so they make sure it's an important component. Right now, if you go, there's all sorts of events about representation, but they all kind of are symposiums or very thoughtful wonk pieces that are not really fun. There's no dancing. Yeah. And I was proud to see that everyone's having a really good time. And I want to see more of that going in the future.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because that's where I know they had an LGBT panel there. I know GLAAD was on also a different panel that kind of talked about general issues, and LGBT came up in that. And they're getting there one small step at a time. But I know there's a lot of talk for next year, even trying to make that even bigger. So I'm sure you're going to be a part of that as well.
Fingers crossed. And yes, I think that, hey, Bone Yang, if you're watching, call me. Let's talk.
I love it. Well, I think this is fantastic. And I think a lot of the work you're doing is, I know that even as an agency, you guys have worked with George Takei and others. And so you guys have a lot of good things going on out there.
Well, part of what we do is being able to look at ourselves in the mirror and think, are we really doing all we can to inherit the world we deserve? Yeah. And I see a lot of agency folks sit on their hands and say or do nothing. And that's not good. Back a few years ago, Texas introduced the most repressive ban on abortion ever. And there were reports that most companies were not saying or doing anything. And so we were the very, very first company to announce a policy where we would relocate anyone in Texas or any state that had such an abortion policy if they needed to go, or if they needed medical treatment that was outlawed in their state. Yeah. And we got a ton of coverage for that, in part because few other companies did that. And oddly enough, few other PR agencies did that as well, even though most of them are led by women. And so Bospar has always prided itself on taking, important steps where it matters and where people are not feeling empowered enough to speak out. We wear our heart on our sleeve, and we think it's important that other agencies do the same thing.
Yeah. Well, you're being politely pushy. I love that tagline. Wrapping up, tell us a little bit about I noticed you have a corporate courage index, and so that kind of seems to fold into everything you've just talked about.
Yeah, we asked 5,000 people around the world what they thought of brands that stood up for LGBTQIA issues. And overwhelmingly, people support it. People support it whether they're in Germany, whether they're in the UK, whether they're in Canada, or even in the US. And what we discovered was that people would buy more of those goods from those companies, would stay more loyal to those companies, and would recommend those companies to others. And we also discovered that the more body conscious, the more health conscious a brand was, the more likely they supported LGBTQIA people. If a brand was more discount, more unhealthy in food, then they would more likely be not supportive of LGBTQIA people. Yeah. So brands that really want to aspire for that gay dollar as well as for everyone else's dollar, side with us.
Yes. Well, I saw that you had Nike ranked first, and then I saw Adidas, Disney. It's some great names on there, and I look forward to seeing where that goes as well.
We're looking forward to brands really holding themselves accountable and staying true to the values that matter. I think the situation with Target was unfortunate. Yeah. And I think what Target has done is put a target on their back for next year's Pride, where everyone's going to see what they're going to do. But overwhelmingly, our research showed that brands that stayed steadfast were going to be more rewarded than those that wavered.
Yeah, I think that more and more companies are going to understand that, especially moving forward into 2024. But
that's our hope.
Exactly. But no, mostly I'm really glad that you were and appreciative you were able to take a few moments of your time and kind of share a bit of your story here with our audience. And I very much look forward to when our paths cross in one of these cities, San Francisco, New York, or somewhere in between, that we get to connect in the real world.
And as long as it's air conditioned and not hot and not sunny, I'm totally game for it.
I hear you. Well, thanks again. And it's great seeing you here.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
You come to Cannes and you see all these signs celebrating Cannes history. What you don't see in those signs are gay people, lesbian people, anyone. That's the point we're trying to make, that we should not be invisible, that we should be celebrated, that we should take center stage, because the more times people see LGBTQIA people, the more times they realize we're just like you. And I think that sort of visibility is important. Ultimately, we want to reward brands that stand by the LGBTQIA community. We want to call attention to it. We have actually worked with GLAAD on our release, and they found that more people worldwide wanted brands to celebrate and include LGBTQIA people.
I'm coming to you live from the streets of Cannes at this incredible Club Courage event.
Hundreds of brands are waking up to the fact that they can stand by LGBTQ people, and they know that their future consumers, their future employees are from the community or they're allies to our community, and they're working with everyone from GLAAD to Bospar to make sure that LGBTQ inclusion stays put.
And we want to be the role model for other agencies. We want more agencies to do these sort of activations, because ultimately we get the world we deserve. Thank you for coming to Club Courage. This is an event to celebrate the LGBTQI community and the brands that support it.
I'm really excited that Bospar is hosting this party, Club Courage, because now more than ever, we have to demonstrate courage and stand up in the face of hate.
I'm just a drag queen who's doing her thing. Two people see like a drag queen outside of a club, you know, it's pretty amazing. So I hope it's gonna open minds and make a difference.
Excited to be here at Club Courage. Compliments of Bospar. I really feel that pride is an important part of our industry and our culture, and as an ally, I'm always here to support the gay community. And I think the more that we embrace it and normalize it and make it something that is accepted by all, the more we'll be able to have a more inclusive and creative community that's for everyone.
My third year at Cannes, first time I think there's been an event like this that I've attended. To bring the community together is always going to be a good idea, and I hope it continues.
As Curtis said, it's more important than ever that we support the community. It's important for brands to stand by what they believe in and be authentic about it.
I just want to thank Bospar for this event. It is so important to have queer gatherings and queer celebrations, especially during this month in Pride. It has been such a hard time for queer people, and we need to come together. We need to celebrate. We are here in Cannes, and we need representation in ads, media, PR, and we need representation here to be together.
I ask anyone who is seeing this, care about our community,
because I promise you, you are working side by side by a member of our community. So thank you again, Curtis. It's incredible to be here, and I'm very, very proud to represent Ketchum and to be here at Cannes with all of you.
If we're not visible at events like this, we can't grow representation within the advertising and comms and PR spaces. So I think events like this are very important to do so, and I'm thankful to be here.
I believe this is the first LGBTQIA event in Cannes that's ever happened, which is incredible to think. So thank you for coming. Round of applause to all of you for coming.